Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen who have joined us on this Dr. Fundi digital channel via multiple social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and also the Dr. Fundi website. Welcome. Today we have an interesting discussion, in prospect, very interesting discussion. Those of you who follow me on Facebook will know that already I've been talking about, the topic of today, which is Albinism Awareness Month. In terms of the health calendar in South Africa, national health calendar, the month of September is actually referred to as Albinism Awareness Month. Now, but internationally, the 13th of June is actually the International Albinism Awareness Day. But in South Africa, we use the whole month of September to actually create awareness. And it's so critical for us to create awareness because the levels of misinformation, the levels of myths, the levels of discrimination, the levels of prejudice against people who are living with albinism are mind-boggling, across the African continent, especially here in sub-Saharan Africa and SADC, specifically. So I have a number of guests today. I've got Dr. Bunolo Mushiana, who is a specialist dermatologist who is in private practice, as a dermatologist. So any issue that has to do with the skin, she is a specialist of that. And we don't have many of such people in South Africa. We've got a shortage of dermatologists in the country. So when you've got an opportunity to actually have somebody of her caliber gracing our studio, we need to take full advantage of her. Now, Dr. Mushiana Bunolo has got a BSc honors from the University of Free State, and also an MPCHP degree, that is the undergrad degree of medicine from Medunsa. And she now is also a specialist dermatologist. She's got a fellowship from the College of Medicine of South Africa, but she did her registrar training at the University of Pretoria. So she's somebody who just does not get tired of reading. 4 years of BSc, 6 years of medicine, another 4 years or so of dermatology. That's like almost 15 years of sitting and reading. Doc, we must reap the fruits of those many years of studying, starting at this conversation. Welcome to Dr. Nyati or Dr. Fundi channel.
Thank you, Dr. Nyati.
All right, let me introduce Odilicious as well. All right, my other guest, I'll call him Odilicious, but I'm sure later he'll tell you his real name. His real name, but he likes the Bootylicious or Delicious, kind of name. It tells you that he's very young at heart. He is representing the Albinism Society of South Africa. When I was planning this show, I felt that we can't be talking about issues relating to people who are living with albinism without representation from at least the association that represents their interests. So we will also be hearing from him, after Dr. Bunolo Mushiana has given us the background technical information about, the skin and eye condition of albinism. We may be joined by another, gentleman or lady, I'm not sure exactly, but because of load shedding, that might happen in about 20 or 30 minutes from now. So when that happens, I will also introduce her. All right, I think let's get the ball rolling. Welcome both to you, Dr. Bunolo and Odilicious. Odilicious, do you want to be part of this? Odilicious, are you ready?
Definitely.
All right. I can. All right. I can. Yeah.
But no, but I was just saying, I know that Udilicious comes very, very nice. But let's stick to my actual name, Udirileng, I think.
Udiriling.
Yes.
Oh, the fact that you put yourself as Utilicious, it means that's what you like.
I'm going to get you for this one, Doctor. I'm going to get you for this one.
All right. But anyway, so let me just rename Udirileng. I hope my spelling will be right.
Yes, yes.
All right, Utirileng. You see, I speak one of these Lunguni languages, so sometimes spelling can be a bit of a challenge. We also are joined by Dr. Meki Mujapelo. I think she's here to support Dr. Bunolo Mushiana.
Welcome.
You know, because Dr. Bunolo supported Dr. Mujapelo, you know, a few days ago. So now it's the other way around.
Reversed.
All right, man. Doc, let's kickstart the discussion with you. You are a specialist dermatologist
Yes.
in private practice, right? Right. And you are operating from?
I'm operating from Netcare Pinehaven in the West Rand and also in Danefen at Mediwell Center, where myself and Dr. Mojapelo are based. Doc, I can't hear you. You are muted.
I'm saying,
Doctor, you muted yourself.
No, I'm okay now. Can you hear me?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Yes. So I'm saying you are based, you know, at Mediwell in Danefen.
Yes.
All right. And I'm happy about that because I told you that there's a shortage of dermatologists, especially Black dermatologists. It's important that you're giving your time to me free of charge. The least I can do is to also market you, you know, so that when people are looking for your services, they know where to get you. All right.
Thank you so much, Doc. Thanks.
All right. But now, Doc, today we are talking about albinism. Now, I want you to help us in simple language. What is albinism?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Fundi. You know, it's quite interesting that we are talking about this disorder during a month where we are celebrating our heritage. And because this condition carries a lot of cultural stigmatization and different cultural beliefs. So scientifically, it is one of those conditions of pigmentation. It is inherited. It's a genetic disorder, basically. That means you get it from the parents who carries the abnormal genes with them, okay, and transfer the genes to their children. So it is an autosomal recessive condition of pigmentary dilution. So meaning that you have abnormalities of the processes in what you call melanogenesis, which is a process where pigmentation is formed.
Yes.
So there's lots of myths around this condition, which are not necessarily true. People think that, you know, it's associated with witchcraft and all that. But basically, you get it from your parents who have got mutated genes. And there's different types of genes which are involved. That is why they would present differently.
Yes. Yes.
I think in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Yes. So I want to come back. You are talking about autosomal recessive. For an average person from the street, what are you saying, Doc?
So what I'm saying is that, you know, we are our parents' genetic makeup, okay? So their parents, your mother and your father, give you certain genes, and pigment is one of them. Yeah. So whether you'll be black or white, you carry it from your parents. Yes. So if there is a defect on those genes that give us pigment, yes, one gene from the mother, one gene from the father, and you have two parents who have those defective genes, yes, you may have about 25% of the next generation will have the genes which will be defective of this pigment. So you'll have your pigmentary dilution. So basically autosomal recessive, it means that it's one gene from the parent and one gene from the mom, one gene from the father.
Yes. Okay. So what that means then is that both parents have this abnormal
gene. Yes.
They may look like normal color, but they
may carry the gene.
Yes. And when they meet and produce Fundile, and they both have the gene, then Fundile has doubled the gene.
Fundile has doubled the gene, and Fundile will then show the characteristics of having that gene.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
So phenotypically, you will then have the color, which will, or rather not have the color.
Yes.
Because you are carrying that gene. You are now translating it into what the other person sees on you.
Lovely, lovely.
Yes.
Now I got you, Doc. Now, are there different types of people who have got albinism? You know?
Yes. First of all, there's different types of albinism. There is the main common one, which is the oculocutaneous, which affects the skin, which affects the hair and the eyes. And then there's also just the ocular albinism, which is just the eyes which are involved. But having said that, even on the oculocutaneous types, there's different 4 types, because not everybody who's got oculocutaneous, which means the skin and the eyes involvement, will look the same. I don't know if you are following. Doc, are you with me? Hello? I think I'm losing. Hello? So like I have explained the different types. So there's 4 types. There's OCA 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the 1, it's also subdivided into 1A and 1B. The difference between the 4 is the type of gene that is involved. So the genetic defect on the different types is not the same. Okay, so like for example, with oculocutaneous albinism type 1, you have absent or reduced enzyme, which is called tyrosinase kinase. So because of this reduction of this activity of this enzyme, then you get pigmentary problems. So how will they look like? The type 1s will have absolutely no pigment at all. So that means the skin will be milky white, the eyes will be gray, blue, and the hair will also not have color, will be white. But at some point in time, the oculocutaneous type 1A, the hair can have yellowish color because of your reduction in keratin.
All right, my apologies.
Are you still with me?
Yeah, my apologies. There was load shedding in my place, and the power has just come back. And when it came back, it messed up with the Wi-Fi. So I now had to find a way to reboot the Wi-Fi. Apologies about that, but I think we'll be fine. We won't have another problem now. But Doc, I was still asking you a question. How does a person who has got albinism manifest? Do they all manifest with having, low pigmentation of the skin, or there are different ways by which they manifest?
Okay, Dr. Fundi, like I was still explaining when you were load shedded, I was explaining about the 4 types. These 4 types of albinism are based on the affected gene. So depending on the type of gene which is affected, then you get a different type. What does a different type mean? The different types mean that the people who are affected will present differently. So there's 4 types, type 1 up to type 4. The type 1 is also subdivided into type 1A and type 1B. The difference mainly here is whether you have, in the process of making pigments, there's those cells which are called melanocytes. Within those cells, there are certain organelles. I don't know what organelles are in a layman's term, which carry this substance which give us pigment, which is called melanin. So in that process, there's enzymes which are involved. It's a lot of complex scientific process. So during that process, you can have deficiency of the enzyme completely or partially.
Okay.
So when you have complete deficiency of that enzyme, then, for example, in type 1, they will have white skin, purely white skin. They hardly pigment. Their eyes will be blue, and the hair will also be white. But at some point in time, the hair may be yellowish because of now when you have reduced keratin. Other types, you can have red to bronze hair. And others can be able to pigment, where you see somebody with albinism, and then they will have patches of brown color. So they don't all present the same because of the different gene affectation.
Lovely, Doc. All right, let's move away from that. I don't want this to be technical. All right, so we now know that it's one group of conditions called albinism, but there are different, types within, depending on their ability to produce this pigment. All right. Now, is it possible for somebody to have albinism, but it only affects maybe the eyes and not the rest of the skin?
Yes, doctor, there is a concept like we discussed earlier, what we call, remember the one that affects the skin is the oculocutaneous, which means the eye and the skin. But can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
The ocular albinism affects just the eyes. Then the person will be normal, but you only have eye affectation.
Yes.
Okay.
Meaning
also, it's that technical process of genetics.
Yes. So you are saying the rest of the skin, is looking normal for that race that the person is.
Yes.
But the eyes are the ones that are affected.
Yes. Yes.
Isn't it?
And I mean, even in the eyes, they can have different types of eye affectations because it affects your eye development, your optic nerve, which is that nerve that will help us to be able to see things the way we see them, to be able to see the colors. So they have different types of eye affectations, from what you call nystagmus, where your eyes are just rolling from one side to the other, or squint, which is strabismus. Yes. And then they can also have refractive problems. Refractive problems meaning your far-sightedness or short-sightedness. That is why more often than not, they will need to have corrective glasses. Yes.
Lovely. No, I'm happy with that, Doc. All right. So we know what it is. We know the different types. All right. So now that we know, people out there think that there is a difference between somebody who is living with albinism and somebody who doesn't beneath the skin. Can you just, clear that? Is there any difference beneath the skin?
Well, no, beneath the skin, there isn't really difference except for the process of pigmentation. So albinism, people who have the condition, they are normal. They have normal intelligence. They do everything else that we do. They can, they can be professional. They are not anyhow affected. The only time when they have, there's few occasions though that can result in, like, for example, bleeding problems and neurological problems. It's only when the albinism is associated with certain syndromes. Okay. I'm not going to mention the different.
No, that's too technical. Yeah.
Yes. So much as the society will see them different culturally and all the different beliefs, but scientifically these are normal human beings. I must mention that though early on in childhood, during the school time, when they start schooling, they may be seen as having, for example, developmental delays or some form of mental challenges purely because of their inability to see, for example. That will be coming from their eyes. The fact that they have eye problems might, make it as if they have learning disabilities, whereas the actual intellect is normal, but because of the challenges with their eyes, and because of, the fact that we are not educated enough to can understand the condition, then even the teachers will easily say, no, but this child has got learning disabilities, for example. Whereas it's only the eyes that are problematic, but the intellect is normal.
Lovely. Can I just bring in at this point Udirileng? Udirileng, can you unmute yourself, Dad? Please unmute yourself. All right. Are you able to?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can hear you very well. Thank you very much. Udirileng.
Okay.
You've just listened to Dr. Yeah, you've just listened to Dr. Mushiana, about the technical explanation around the condition. Is there any question at this point that you would like to maybe ask to just explain a little bit before we go forward?
I would say to you, what most of the thing, I'd say 90% of the things or even most of the things that the doctor has actually highlighted, I could literally associate with, especially when the early development stages. I can 100% attest to that. And, it's so sad because most of, I would say to you that your general public would literally perceive from that perspective. And I think that's where half of the time, or if not most of the time, the negative stigma literally would begin. And to make it worse, that you would be looking different.
Yeah. Yes.
So I can literally attest to what the doctor is actually saying.
Yes, beautiful. I just want to ask you another question whilst you are in here. Before we go further, I want this to be an interactive discussion. Now, you are here, representing ASSA, right?
Yes.
The Albinism Society of South Africa. Can you just tell us a little bit, what does that organization do? What are the kind of campaigns that you guys are driving before we go back, to continue with Dr. Mushiana? Because I was very happy that there is actually a national association that is advocating for people with, albinism. But anyway, I want you to be the one who tells us more about that association.
Thank you very much, by the way, for the invite. I must say, Ed, as well. I must say to you that the organization has literally evolved quite a lot from what we had initially conceptualized, and we're very, very much involved in so many projects. To mention some of the few, we're educating the community about the albinism condition, influencing policy within the disability sector, mobilizing the implementation of various policies, advocacy globally and regionally as well. And we have an influence in the health sector as well about albinism, and literally influencing society to a certain degree as well.
Yeah. So what would you say are the top three things what are the top 3 programs that you guys are running in the interest of people who are living with albinism?
Mostly what is actually taking passion for me is literally trying to bring into when you bringing into, pardon my pun, one of my passion is when seeing a young albino child, educating him, trying to showing to them that, you know what, you are more than what people would literally perceive you. And that's one of my passion. That's one of my the top priority of my passion. And onto the organization, educating the community. That's one of literally very important, because acceptance. The sooner the general public starts realizing that, you know what, we actually are sitting with us here, as in what so-called the normal people, we're sitting with us. How is it that we've been turning against our own people? That's literally one of the most important things. And obviously influencing policy within the disability sector, because in a way, I don't want to go into technical, in a way, we are seeing I've been told most of the time that we don't really belong in the disability sector. And that is, one of the, what we're trying to. And monitoring the implementation of policies that we are really trying very hard to make sure that implement.
Lovely. So how is the mobilization on the ground? Are you guys getting traction? Are you getting more people? Because it doesn't have to be people who are living with albinism. There are many other people who, are affected in one way or the other, or the cause that you guys are fighting for. We actually relate and feel that we need to be part of it. So are you getting more traction on the ground in terms of increasing the awareness and also getting people to join your cause?
I can definitely say to you, it's more of a mixed feeling. And because you're sitting with one person who fully understands what they would be seeing, and you seeing somebody on the other side that totally see a disgust. But I can tell you the positiveness that we get. And I can personally say I have went out of my way to actually not even convince, sit down, or maybe show an individual who literally initially saw an albino as a disgust or whatever word they would like to use, to actually ended up seeing me and wanting to actually even do a whole lot of work with me, and only realizing that, you know what, for the good part of my life, I have never met, albinism has been painted with this particular paintbrush. And with me, it was just a stigma that I've always had. And when you get that from not just from your ordinary person, that actually has for me, it's so much, it has so much powerful positive message, because that if a so-called person, a so-called normal person can convince the other person, imagine what that would do. Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to Dr. Mushiana. I'll keep on moving from you and her, and at some point I'll also bring in Dr. Mujapilo as somebody who has worked a lot in communities, and I'm sure she's had tons of patients who are living with albinism. We'll also hear from her. So Doc, we now know what albinism is, the different presentations of albinism, and the fact that largely below the skin, there isn't much else that is different between the so-called normal people and people who are living with albinism. Right. Now, but we do know, though, that there are health challenges that people with albinism normally struggle with. Can you just share with us the kind of health challenges that they normally struggle with, And obviously, being a health promotion show here, one wants to also know if I have a child who's born today, with albinism, how soon should I start proactively, managing those things so that I don't wake up 12 years later or 13 years later, there's a problem. So just, can you just share with us about that?
Okay, Doctor, thank you so much. There's quite a number of health challenges which people with albinism go through. I mean, from birth, you find that they go through rejection from the parents. Yeah. And that alone it's got psychosocial implications to the child, because sometimes it's unexpected for the mother to see this white-skinned person, and then you get the mother being persecuted from all sorts of family backgrounds that, they even think you've been cheating, Yeah. So, and that alone, the lack of bonding from early infancy have got a lot of psychosocial implications. And then moving to the skin now, particularly, obviously they are prone to a whole lot of sun damage or skin cancers, which are related to UV. So importantly, they need to look after their skin by wearing wide-brimmed hats, long-sleeved shirts, sun protection all the time, especially the use of sun protection factor of about 30 to 50, which is to prevent, the higher ones, not 15. 15 would be too little for them, to prevent the skin from developing those cancers. And also remember, we tend to forget that the lips also can be affected. So they need to take good care of their lips as well, because they can also get squamous cell carcinomas or actinic cheilitis secondary to UV damage. So those are basically the main things. And then from the eye point of view, they can get a whole lot of other eye problems that we have mentioned. So to take care of the eyes, there's, a whole lot of things that they can do. They can wear corrective glasses, for example, if there's myopia. They can also use the dark glasses, which are protective against UV, okay? And then, like, for example, during school ages, it's a pity that, we are in the third world countries and some of these things are not necessarily available to us. But other countries, they would even provide the kids with your magnifying glasses to enable them to see properly. Because once you are able to see properly, then it doesn't impact on your learning abilities, then you compete equally with other kids in class. Yeah. So those are some of the health challenges that they can go through, but the psychosocial impact of the rejection that they get, be it from home and from society, yes, and they end up having low self-esteem. They don't believe in themselves, and that also creates a lot of problems in the kind of adult that they will become. Okay. Yes. So yeah, and we need a lot of education to educate from the families to the communities, to the healthcare workers. I mean, the nurses in nursery, sometimes you find that they see this child who has got this white skin, and sometimes they don't even know how to manage the skin. And, from early age, the eyes, at least before they go to school, they need to be seen by an ophthalmologist to assess the eyes. And then from the skin, as early as infancy, they need to consult with a dermatologist so that we can educate them about the condition and how to take care of the skin before the child is sun exposed. Because sometimes we see patients coming to us at a later stage when they already have affectation from UV of some sort, be it skin cancers. And remember, we've seen that they make about 23% of the skin cancers that we see amongst Black people. So it's very important that the earlier you start taking care of your skin, the better, to avoid a whole lot of affectations.
Just to add on as well, Doctor, one most important factor that I personally am actually very big on as well is the what you put in. You know, in my early stages, in my early development stages, growth, for me, what I put in didn't really matter, and what I put in as in food didn't really matter. And I got to learn very hard way that what I know that generally good health, you know, good vegetables and everything is out of the day. But I've realized that we tend to be more prone and more, you know, a good healthy diet tends to actually keep your skin very healthy and lookable, and the development as well tends to be more, you know, like there's science literally tend to be more evident than anything else.
Yeah.
No, that's
So
true. That's very important.
Yes. Yeah, you can continue, Doctor.
Oh yes, I was saying that the diet plays a very important role. I mean, they say we are what we eat, you know.
Yes.
Very true.
So even for the skin, it's very important that you hydrate your, you know, hydration, good intake of nutritional foods. Like for them, for us, everybody needs good carotenes. But for somebody with albinism, to improve your vision, you need to eat food that's high in carotenes. Yes.
And a good moisturizer before the sunscreen part as well. A good moisturizer, good daily moisturizer.
Yes.
It's really good for your skin.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, because the skin tends to be dry. And, you know, by moisturizer, people tend to think when you're applying a good moisturizer, you're applying aqueous cream. The skin doesn't need aqueous cream. The skin needs something that is fatty. So your fatty ointment, the good fats, which will get absorbed well into the skin, you know. So if you can really avoid too much aqueous cream and rather look for something that is fatty.
Like
I actually use it to wash.
Sorry. Yes, you actually use the emulsifying ointments to wash. You can use them as wash and moisturizer, and avoid a lot of soaps, because soaps can be irritants. They can irritate the skin. I mean, right now with COVID, we see with the regular washing of hands, we see a lot of hand dermatitis, but it comes from using soap on the skin, and of course the alcohol on the skin. But a lot of soaps have got irritants, so you need something that is mild, that's got pH which is almost the same as that of the skin. So yes, you can use your emulsifying ointments as a wash and a moisturizer.
Yeah.
Actually, just to add on, I was just advised at one point in my life to avoid to use a beauty soap rather than your like your Lifebuoy, your Sunlight. That's apparently much better than your average beauty soap.
Well, the dermatologist is here. She must talk.
Well,
I'm actually posing it to her.
we normally don't recommend the Lifebuoys and stuff, you know, because these are they have antibacterial
soaps.
Yes, and then you don't want to kill all your natural or your normal flora, you know. So you need to avoid that, because we do have organisms, microorganisms on our skin which live symbiotically with us, you know. That's why they are normal flora. So those you don't want to kill. So avoid and also soaps which have antimicrobial activities, because I don't want to really name products here because that's not why I'm here. So the ones which have got antimicrobial activity can also be irritants. So you want something that is very mild, that's got pH which is almost close to that of the skin, which is a non-irritant.
Yeah. But I think the message here is that it's important to use a soap that will not worsen your skin.
Yes.
You know, I think that's the one thing.
Yes.
It won't make your skin drier than necessary. It won't kill all the normal germs that protect your skin. And I think what you've also said, Doc, is that it's important that the skin is moisturized in not using aqueous cream. At least that's not a trade name. You know, that's not a trade name. You know, so we're not promoting anybody. But but there are moisturizers that are oil-based. You know, did you say that? You said fat-based moisturizer.
The difference between a cream and a lotion and an ointment. You know,
Lovely.
so what you need is an ointment, not a cream and not a lotion. But there is, you know, obviously there are times where you can use those ones, particularly when the skin has got infection, because a lot of organisms will flourish in a fatty medium. So when there's the infection on the skin, which is pathological, then you may consider using a lotion or a cream. But generally, you need an ointment.
Doc, again, remember, most of the people who are watching us are non-medical, right? So can you just break it down, a difference between an ointment and a cream and whatever else? Nji.
Okay, just so to sum it up, really, not going too much into scientific details.
Not too technical, just very high level.
Not too technical. Basically, the layers of the skin, the top layer of the skin, it's a fat-rich layer, you know. So you need fat which obviously when you mix fat and fat, oil and oil, they mix together versus water and oil. When you mix water and oil, they will not immerse into each other. So you need something that is fatty or oily, so that it can absorb nicely, or rather go through the layer of the skin, which is also fatty. Yes. Okay. Whereas lotions and creams are more water-based. They have more water than they have the oils. So it's like now when you put it on the skin, they won't get absorbed because it's like you are mixing oil and water.
Okay.
I think in simple terms.
General.
In general, that's the principle.
Beautiful, beautiful, Doc. Okay, so now you've got this child who's growing up and is living with albinism, or a teenager or an adolescent. How often do you think they should be seeing a dermatologist? You know, and how often should they be seeing their GP? Because I'm sure, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, in the health system that South Africa espouses, the family doctor, or you know, is the gatekeeper working with various specialists, right? That's how it should be. Now, how often should they be seeing a specialist like you?
Okay, I must say it all depends on the time of presentation. Ideally, they should present as early as infancy. Just after they are born, we need to, you know, educate the moms from the onset as to how they should take care. 6 months later, they come, we review. As soon as they are sun exposed, we see them every 6 months to a year. If they don't have anything on the skin, if there are no associated syndromes, because remember, oculocutaneous albinism, like I said earlier, can be associated with syndromes. So within the first 2 years, we see them quite often, at least 6 months to a year. But then subsequently, now, once we have educated the mom and there are no problems and they know how to take care of the skin, then we can see them yearly. Unless, of course, there are problems. Having said that, some patients present, some people with albinism present only when they see problems. Depending on the extent of the problem, if it's cancers, then we diagnose the cancers, and then some of them might need excision, meaning removed by the plastic surgeons. And then the non-cancer lesions, secondary to UV, we need to, you know, freeze them, give them cryotherapy if it's actinic keratosis, which is also UV damage. And then those ones, we see them every 6 months, because if it's actinic keratosis, they are pre-malignant. So we always have to watch them and make sure that they don't transform to being cancerous. Okay,
Yes, yes.
so it all depends on the stage of presentation, but mainly we need to see them from infancy every 6 months, ensure that they don't have any neurological affectations as part of a syndrome. And once we are happy with that, then from there on yearly.
Okay.
But I mean, like you said, doctor, that South Africa is it's a very interesting country. We have a shortage of dermatologists, and you know, in one area, you only see a dermatologist at an academic institution. You know, somebody who lives in Carltonville, they can only see a dermatologist at Bara or at Helen Joseph, you know, because of, you know, the system, the way the system is. So it's just unfortunate. And that's how we end up losing patients in the system, you know. Some people would be not reluctant to present themselves, but purely because of accessibility, lack of accessibility of, you know, the service, then they end up not showing up, you know. So we have broader challenges that we're still trying to deal with.
So issues of access to healthcare to this special group of people is something that, you know, because earlier you mentioned the things that need to be available to them so that they can proactively, you know, manage their skin and the eyes so that you know, the damage to the skin or to the eyes is actually limited because you are doing something else, you know. So, but in a country like South Africa, where we've got serious challenges, especially for those people who depend on the public healthcare system, then you might find that those very people may even have challenges in procuring the stuff that you said they should procure to look after themselves, you know. Udirileng,
Yes,
growing
sir.
up, what would you say were the health challenges that you have experienced, or to date, what kind of health challenges have you experienced as a person who's living with, you know, albinism?
I would just add in and say, I think I was very fortunate that I had supportive parents, both sides, and for them, because I'm a very curious person, and I sat my parents down and wanted to find out, you know, how was it to bring a child like me, and for them, they were also puzzled, and they took extra care to make sure that I get, I'd say, the best care, I would say, and I learned as well from the early age, from a very early stage, to actually take care of myself, and it's you know, it's, I would say to you, as a person, learning from that early age to realize that I have to do things in a different way, and accepted. I literally kind of would say accepted myself at a very early age, and that taught me to say you need to take extra care of yourself. So for me, I don't see it as a challenge. I mean, I would, even now, my lifestyle, literally, I channel my lifestyle, I channel my life to actually suit me, because I understand there's a whole lot of things that I can't do. I mean, I love cars. I'm not going to lie to you right now. I'm not allowed to, according to the government, I am not even allowed to drive. But, you know, those are some of the little things that I would just highlight to you. But you just channel your life and say, this is me. But that will never deter me to succeed or be who I want to be or where I want to be in life.
Lovely.
So in a way, for me, nah, not really a challenge.
Minimal impact by the condition.
No, minimal impact,
on you.
minimal.
But what are the kind of things, though, that would still drive you to see, you know, a Dr. Mushiana or your GP? You know, what are the kind of things related to the condition? I'm not going to talk about stuff that is not related to the condition.
Yeah. No, like right now, there's quite a lot. I spend a lot. Like I said, I've got a very curious mind, and my other job, I'm a news person, so I spend a lot of time traveling all over the country, gathering news. And you go to places like Limpopo. As much as I'm well protected, always sunscreen with me. Go to places like Limpopo. You get there, spend 2-3 hours in the sun. You burn like crazy.
Yeah.
You burn like crazy. You wake up in the morning, you've got like blisters all over your face, all over your body. So those are the little things that you would literally see. You know, like I would actually make sure that, oh, okay, cool. I'm about to travel to such a place. what extra cash do you think I should take? Consult. That's why for me, having a person of her caliber on my right hand side, or just surrounding me, those are people that I really like, because I question quite a lot of things.
Beautiful. Doc, so as I was reading earlier in the day, in other parts of the world, they say ages 30 to 40, that's when some people start presenting with cancers, cancers of the skin. In the South African, situation, what is the picture?
We have the same
cancers.
With regards to cancers broadly, or in particular to albinism, in this context?
Cancers, okay, in this people who are living with albinism.
Yes, I must say that, sometimes it's the only reason that makes them present to us. Yes. So you find that they've been fine all this time. They've been, carrying along lack of education about the condition. And then only when they see something which is abnormal, which starts to bleed, and this ulcerating thing on the skin, then they tend to come to us. So especially blacks, because we are said not to be prone to skin cancers, and that alone is a big problem, because we do see a lot of black skin with skin cancers. So albinism people, yes, they present to us at a later stage. In a South African context, about 23% of albino people present with skin cancers, and at an adult age. So we do see them, and 9.6% is said to be presenting with non-cancerous lesions at those ages of, from 40 and above. Yeah. Sometimes you find that it's for the first time they present to a dermatologist at that age, purely because they see now something which is abnormal. And remember, with our culture as well, when we see something on the skin, we start having a whole lot of myths and beliefs. We don't present to the clinician as the first person. We go to other alternative medicine or healers. And then when you don't get healed, or when you don't get help, only then they start presenting to us. So we see a lot of advanced cancers because of that reason. Yes.
Okay. All right. Now,
I'm sorry to just interject. To backtrack, what the doctor actually said earlier about, unfortunately, it takes quite an extra care or extra effort to maintain this skin. Going back, as ASA, I personally am driving a program where I try and assist, impoverished or those that can't take care of, like your basic necessities. Supply them on a monthly basis or on a regular basis to make sure that they also tend to be. They can follow. My details will be on. I think on the handle Facebook. They can just follow me at inbox me, and I will make sure that I put together anything a package, a good pack for them, so that they actually able to maintain take care of themselves.
Yeah,
we mentioning. I'm naming toiletries. I'm naming sunglasses, like your basic necessity, that things that you would know, like, okay, cool, this definitely this person would never do without. It will go, it will take them an extra mile.
Yeah, I think before the end of the show, I'm gonna ask you to give us your details. Obviously, there is the Albinism Society of South Africa, but I'm also gonna be asking you, to give us your social media handles, so that people can be able to, contact you as well for guidance and advice. All right. So please remind me not to forget for you to do that before the end of the show. Right.
Happiness.
I think, can I just come in there, Dr. Nyati? Yes. I think that is very important what Udireleng is saying, because, in our industry, a lot of, pharmaceutical companies are actually willing to assist with sunscreen. There's one or two kids that I'm supporting who are in the Northwest with sunscreen. Every month I package some sunscreens to them who also living with albinism. So it would be nice actually to link up and yes, please let's talk after the show. Perfect. Can we?
Happiness.
Yes.
You
No,
and I'll
definitely.
get that from you.
Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's fine. We'll chat after the show.
I'm happy about this collaboration that seems to be coming. You know, so that's I'm very happy about it. So now, Doc, okay, for a person again, non-medical, what would make them to think that this skin change or this skin lesion could be cancerous? You know, I mean, so at what point? So what are the common skin things that normally, you know, some benign, some non-benign, you know, but what would make them to say, okay, this one, I think I really have to see a dermatologist?
Okay, there's different lesions due to UV. We have, like you have said rightfully, there's non-cancerous ones and there's ones which are cancerous. And the other ones are, we say they are pre-malignant, pre-cancerous, you know, they can transform into cancer. Yeah. So on the skin of albinism people, when you see, not just albinism, by the way, because now they because of no pigment, that they will have the same problems that a Caucasian skin will have, okay? Yeah. Because remember, we have different types of skin, Fitzpatrick 1 to 6, depending whether you are light-skinned or darker-skinned. So when you see something that is whitish and it feels rough, what we call actinic keratosis, those ones are the ones which can be cancerous. They are not cancerous, but they have potential to become cancer. And those ones are the ones that we treat. Okay, how do we treat them? We burn them with liquid nitrogen. There's different treatment modalities. Then you need to know when you have those, which when you feel them on the skin, they are not smooth, they feel very rough. Then you need to present to us. And then also when you have something that suspicious would be, when you look on the sides, it looks irregular. Okay, this is like a pimple that will look irregular on the side. Sometimes it's raised, sometimes it may be flat, but the irregularity on the side, that will make you present. Sometimes it will bleed. Sometimes it will be an ulcer, which is more an opening or defect on the skin. When you see those ones and they are not healing, whatever that, say for example, you present to your doctor and they give you whatever treatment and this is not healing. When you see that it's not healing and then you start becoming suspicious that it could be cancer, okay? Yeah. And then also, I always like emphasizing the lips because we tend to overlook it because you can still have cancer on the lips. So it will present as well as an ulcer, something that is there, you think, maybe this is just a flu blister. And then flu blister continues, it's not healing. Then you need to think, okay, now it's time to go present at a dermatologist so that we can have a look and exclude a cancer. But the sooner you present, the better. You know, when you see something and you are uncomfortable, because obviously some people like Uti Releng, they are quite aware of their skin. They are quite aware of the condition. So when you see something on the skin and you are not comfortable, just present. You'd rather be safe than sorry, you know? Yeah. But for those who are not really aware of the potential cancers that this skin can have, then you see something on the skin, it takes a while to heal. Then you need to present to the dermatologist. A while meaning anything that's more than a month that's sitting there and it's not healing, you need to present.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I think,
Yes, sir.
have you had any skin, you know, things that worried you and you thought, hey, I need to go and see a doctor?
Yes. You know, like with me, and so for me, I'm fully. For me, most of the good part of my life was in Cape Town. So I had somebody that I would regularly see based that side. I'm very, like I said to you, I'm very. I come from part of one of my life is I belong to the TV industry, and the looking good part is the order of the day, you know. And for me, it doesn't even take a day. It doesn't even take 5 hours. I see something within 5 hours. I literally start seeing what's in my cabinet, start making calls and find out I've got this. And half of the time you're like, okay, no, you know, and you know, they dermatologists, for me, I think with what the doctor was actually highlighting earlier, we need to have we need to have more of them to actually make sure that people like us who are very more sensitive to sun or a whole lot of other contributing factors need to be very close to them.
Okay, beautiful, beautiful. Now I'm going to switch from the deep technical side of things. I want us to look at the human rights related kind of issues, you know. You know, so we're looking now at group issues, really group issues. Growing up, I grew up in the Eastern Cape, but you know, I'm now in Gauteng. It's been 24 years that I've been in Gauteng. But when I listen to people who come from different parts of South Africa, they seem to also have some of the same myths that I used to hear where I come from. For example, they would tell you that a person who is living with albinism, they never die, they just disappear. Now, that's obviously nonsense, all right? Others will, you know, during the time of HIV, you know, at the peak of HIV, some people would even believe that if somebody has sexual intercourse, unprotected sexual intercourse with somebody who's living with albinism, it will cure them, right? At the West, and it's something that we still see even today, even here in South Africa, people who believe that the body parts of people who are living with albinism have got healing properties, to an extent that people, you know, some of these people will go and hunt people who are living with albinism, kill them for their body parts, right? We've got cases in KZN and in Mpumalanga, you know, from those types of myths. Others would even go to the extent of, you know, interfering with the recently buried, you know, with the graves of recently buried people who are living with albinism, where they, you know, they try and get hold of, you know, the coffin or the casket so that they can get body parts from a person who has passed on. Now, all of these things, you know, are human rights violations. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to just throw in a bit of sense, a bit of the human there. There's one myth that I actually love so much, and every time it happens to me, you know, I just like it. I just look at that person and you're so dumb. You know, you get so people that believe that you see an albino person, you look at them, you bump into them, you'll literally bore an albino person. And when you see somebody spitting into their clothes, you ask themselves, how unhealthy can you be? What is this that you're doing? You know, so these are the little things that you know, you hear them, you see them. Yes, there's some there are saddening ones, mutilated body parts and stuff. Yes, very sad. That literally, you know, this is something I personally feel, yeah. But you know, you find those, you hear about those that like, really?
Yeah. Doc Bunala?
Well, these things exist, Doctor, and you know, it's unfortunate that they actually start from early childhood. You know, it shows the lack of education, the ignorance in our communities. I mean, from school, we get stories that a child at school, no one wants to make friends with them, no one wants to sit next to them because they are contagious. You know, I mean, how do you think of a pigmentary disorder being contagious? So there are those myths, and it's unfortunate. It shows that we really need to educate society. You know, I mean, the albinism people are, you know, marginalized as well. You know, because we think their intelligence is below ours. You know, on which basis? I don't understand. Why do we marginalize them? You know, it just shows that as society, as a nation, we need to really mobilize and educate people out there, because really their human rights are honestly violated.
Yes. Let me bring in Dr. Megi, Dr. Megs. You know, she has been in practice for at least, I would say, about 35 years as a doctor, from 1986. That's about 34 years now. Dr. Max.
Yes, Fundi, Dr. Fundi.
Agubuni.
Oh, okay.
Hey.
Okay. Hi.
All right, Dr. Max, you have practiced medicine for over 30 years. Started training Kodeben, you came to Gauteng, you were based Vosloorus area, and you are now in the Lani area of Dainfen. But you're one of those people who are in touch with the health system in both rich and not so rich areas. What is your experience, from a human rights perspective? The issues that bother you around how society treats people who are living with albinism.
Okay. I think the issues that thank you for a brilliant talk that I feel all the primary healthcare practitioners should be not only listening, but it's good that it will be, in the cloud and we can share with our colleagues, because it's important, because the patients access the primary care first. And we know that we've got shortages of dermatologists, and I would like us to be empowered by all that has been said, because we are the first line of contact. So in terms of human rights issues, there are issues of stigma within our communities. And what we normally do is that as primary care practitioners, we are the advocates. We promote advocacy, health promotion, and we work hand in glove in a care coordinated system with a dermatologist, because there are few dermatologists in the country. So the stigma is one of the aspects that we have seen prevalent, especially in our communities, in particular in the the townships. And then there are certain myths that has to be demystified. And how you do it, you don't wait for a patient to come. You integrate your services as a primary care facility to be an advocate and health promotion within the community, do the talks. And now that we are digital, we know that with a click of a button, with this talk, we'll share it with our patients. It will be on our website. And I mean, we are privileged to have a dermatologist on site as part of a care coordinated system. The stigma and some of the myths are very scary. In terms of they don't die, they disappear. And some of the body parts that some of the communities are associated with in terms of mortality, etc. We have to be the advocate of demystifying that, and we have to work hand in glove with the dermatologist in terms of spreading the knowledge that those myths we must demystify. It's a challenge. It's a human rights challenge with albinism, and I'm glad that today we are addressing such issues, because they exist at the primary care level. And one thing last before I go, what are the tools that you can give in terms of the primary healthcare services for albinism? Because there are quite a number of moving parts that you have mentioned, our experts here, dermatologists and Udirling, but we need to be empowered, because it's a fact. They start with us, we see them with colds and flus and stuff. So what are the tools? What should we do at the primary care level?
Okay. I think I will hand that over to Dr. Mushiana to just say, at first contact level, assuming that there is nothing that is, serious, what would be the kind of services at first care level that a competent well-resourced family doctor should be able to provide?
Well, doctor, at first contact level, education is important. Our colleagues will need to educate the albinism mom or child about the condition, about how they should manage the condition, the understanding behind the genetic involvement of this condition. And then once the mothers understand that, they are able to manage the stigma, they are able to even understand them, they are not being hard on themselves, the psychosocial impact on what this condition can do. Education. And then in terms of managing the skin, basic things like sunscreen, like Udirele mentioned, a very important part of taking care of your skin, moisturizing your skin, sunscreen, and advocating for using the wide brim hats, long sleeves, sun protection. Basically, we know that the sun is at its most dangerous form between 12 o'clock midday and 3 o'clock p.m. So for them, they need to use their sunscreen regularly, and you advocate for SPF 30 plus, not 15. Those are some of the basic things which have a greater impact on eventuality on, or how they will look like eventually.
Yes.
So at primary healthcare, those are the main things that one can do, advocate for sun protection and those measures that I have said, and also your sunglasses, which have got UV protection for the kids. And if you see that you've seen a child, even though they don't come necessarily for the fact that they have albinism, if they come for anything like immunization, take an opportunity to educate the mother about their condition. When you see such a child, take an opportunity to educate about skin care, because eventually when they understand the condition and when they know what to do, they may not have the dangerous cancers in the long run. So at healthcare, at initial healthcare presentation, we must always take an opportunity when we see them, empower the mothers, empower the child as well, that there's nothing wrong with you as a human being. You only have pigment issue, and therefore you need to carry it well. You need to carry it with pride, and so that they also don't have self-esteem problems, because a child with self-esteem, it's already a limitation to so much. You already see yourself as I'm not able to, whereas it's got nothing to do with your abilities. You are just as capable as any other supposedly normal person. You are a normal human being. You only have pigment problems, So picking up issue when you see them, always at primary healthcare, take an advantage, educate them, teach them about the condition, teach them how to take care of their skin.
Okay, I'm gonna go back a step before then, Doc, to say, obviously, to be able to teach other people about the condition, you must also be up to date with the information relating to the condition yourself, because remember, medicine is wide,
Yes.
and so not everybody keeps up to date with almost every condition. And so as part of continuous medical education, those CMEs, people need to look for CMEs for common skin conditions, acne,
Yes, certainly.
albinism, and other common skin conditions, so that when you have a webinar, we now live in the world of webinars. We should be able to have a webinar that is for primary healthcare doctors, and then go through the common conditions and be able to say, for an acne like this, for somebody with albinism, this, so that you can refresh their mind, so that they can also have a high index of suspicion, about some of the things that may not necessarily go right, so I'm almost saying, even before they educate the communities, the guys need to, I believe, there's a book writer, Stephen Covey, of 7 habits of the most successful people, or highly effective people. Yes, and the 7 the seventh principle there is sharpening the saw. So we should always sharpen the saw, meaning, improve and sharpen our knowledge, because when we do so, it will come so easily to empower our patients. So I think the doctors must regularly sharpen their saw so that they can even be able to share, because a lot of our patients nowadays, they start with Dr. Google, and sometimes Dr. Google may actually confuse them. So as a doctor, then at first line, you need to be able to handle this empowered patient by Dr. Google, who may ask you difficult questions. A long time ago, they used to call them Reader's Digest patients. Dr. McGee will remember that. Before there was Google, they used to be Reader's Digest patients. And those were kind of patients that were quite difficult to deal with, because when they come to see you, they already know so much. Sometimes because they don't have the depth of the training, so they misunderstand and even don't trust some of the advice that comes from you. So so it's important for the doctors to actually sharpen the saw, and it's also important for people like you, doc, to actually make it your business once or twice a year, to have some workshop or webinar. It's even easier now with webinars, to empower the guys. You can even charge for that, because that's your professional time,
No, that's true, Doc. And, we really appreciate somebody like you who really takes time and make an effort to educate both our colleagues and society at large. We really appreciate that, because at the end of the day, our patients are the ones who benefit, and we are here to advocate for them, to make healthcare not just accessible, but it has to be quality healthcare where we are all knowledgeable, we are, at par with our colleagues everywhere else in the world. So we really appreciate your initiatives.
Yeah, yes. Now, whilst we're still talking about human rights issues, Odireleng,
Yes.
now the United Nations in 2013, they appointed a lady to become what they call independent expert to look at rights, human rights of people who are living with albinism, right? After they had taken a resolution. It took South Africa as a member country 2 years to come up with its own, in 2015, a white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities, which was adopted in 2015, which recognizes albinism as an impairment that must be seen from a disability rights perspective. At a certain point, not everybody who has got albinism has a disability, but there is some level of impairment. But at some point, it may become a disability, an occupational disability, which is why they've included it there. But my issue, though, is that with that adoption of the white paper in 2015, they then set up to have a development of a national albinism action plan, right? Which is supposed to mainstream issues of people who are living with disabilities across all departments and all the laws of the country. For example, Promotion of Equality and Prevention of Unfair Discrimination Act, Hate Crime and Hate Speech Bill, Criminal Matters Act, Judicial Matters Act, Sexual Offences and Related Matters Bill, AU Regional Plan on Albinism, AU Protocol on Disability, and the UN Convention on Rights of People with Disabilities. Now, that was 5 years ago, but we still don't have a finished product 5 years later. Yet, the violations of the human rights of people who are living with, albinism are continuing. So, Udireleng, what are you guys doing to advocate, to lobby, to make sure that those white papers they become law. There's clear programs on the ground that the government is driving together with stakeholders like you. When I say like you, I'm talking about Albinism Society of South Africa.
Are you still there?
Letang as ASSA to make sure that the rights of people who are living with albinism, putting pressure on the government because things take time. It's been 5 years since the white paper and we haven't seen anything yet. So as the association that represents people with albinism, you should be putting pressure in many ways, writing open letter if you have to, engaging the directorates if you have to, go and put and stand up with placards or union buildings where the Ministry of Women and Disability is residing within the presidency. So what are you guys doing to advocate, to push the government to actually make sure that the protection is not there, by mouth? It's there in terms of the laws.
Engagements with the government, I must tell you, it's very there. That one it's very rife, and we're very much involved with most of the stakeholders in terms of policies, in terms of, it is there. But I also personally just asking myself, why is the process of making sure that we reach to a conclusion, it's just on a snail's pace? That is something that we actually, as ASA, we try very hard to. We're working hard on that. And the last conversation we were having with one of my colleagues, we were like just saying, it tends to be a bit difficult because you're sitting with this at this particular point. You're sitting with this particular administration that will literally, okay, you need to school them from the grassroots level and go up with them. Eventually, that person's over there, and then now you move up again. You have to sit down with the next person again that's coming into place, and so in a way, there's so many factors that, in true essence, are a hindrance in terms of getting to the actual policies. But I can assure you, we are not rested. We are not rested. We are pushing every little opportunity that we can get to make sure that our voices are heard, our needs are being met, and.
All right. I'm going towards now. We've got less than 8 minutes left. I want last words from you, Odirileng, in terms of going forward. Right, going forward, what would be the one thing that you think would make the biggest difference in terms of things that are of interest to people who are living with albinism? One thing that if the government can do this, it would make the biggest difference in terms of the lives of people who are living with albinism.
I would love to actually start it from maybe from the grassroots. I personally would say, acceptance. Personally, I wouldn't say, accept, like as the doc said, in a grassroots level, when a child gets, when a young albino child is born, there's so many stigmas and everything. But if we can change that from the inception stage, from the grassroots level, which literally would be coming from your general public, if parents, because I personally as well, most of the parents, when they get born, when they bear an albino child, half of them, they don't know. I'm sitting with multiple single parents that I don't know what to do with this child. But the fact that they accepted that child, they giving love to that child, that child is actually growing in a very loved environment, which is actually very good. That's where I personally, first, I think I would love that to happen. And to government, this you've just highlighted this policies that are been drawn, but they are not put into place. Those are some of the things that I think if we can iron them out, if we can just go over that hurdle, I'm seeing light at the end of the tunnel. Because now you're fighting for something that is not really concluded and it's not really concluded and built. Now, how do you expect the other person to kind of see it as you as an individual, not as how the actual country sees it? So hence why if it can start from the grassroots level and acceptance, then too, on the other side, just the implementation of all that needs to be implemented, that will make me the most happiest person.
Thank you. And as a journalist, as a journalist, and somebody in that space, is there any way where you are opportunistic, like on a month like today, you write an article, you know, a day in the life of somebody who's living with albinism? Nje?
Okay, correction. Oh, correction. Hello. Oh. Correction. Not a journalist, as a news person.
Okay.
Remember, there's the technical side. There's the technical side of things.
Okay. All right.
The connected technical, the technology side of things. That's where I am. But just to rephrase that question, because I tend to, can you just give me that question again? I really would love to answer that.
Okay. You know, we talk about, I mean, the theme this year is made to shine. How can you shine where you are in the interests of people who are living with albinism? I'm saying where you are work-wise.
Personally educating. Because education, that's all. You make sure that wherever you are, I mean, this is a policy that I personally have taken. I mean, I have to make sure that wherever I am, there's always a smiling face, because you tend to get interest. People who probably have no idea what you are, why you like this, what's going on with you. They would want you to, you know. So if it comes from you, educating, taking your time. I mean, half the time I get stopped in shopping malls when I'm rushing for my other meeting and stuff, get to sit down and talk, you know, 5 minutes, just educating somebody that, you know what, hey, and that 5 minutes, when you walk away, 2 days down the line, that person calls and say, hey, you know what, I'd like you to meet my friends, you know, it is a beautiful.
Okay. Thank you, Udirileng.
Make sure that
Thank you. Dr. Bunol.
I didn't get that.
No. Now, thank you, oh delicious. Let me move on to Dr. Mushiana. Right. Let me move to Dr. Mushiana. Okay. Dr. Mushiana, if I already know that I come from a family where there is this recessive gene, are there opportunities even before for me to, go for genetic counseling and things like that, you know, or if my partner, is pregnant, to go for genetic counseling, either before we actually have the baby or even during, to prepare us so that we don't have shocks?
Yes, doctor. If you already know that you are from a family, you are predisposed to getting children with albinism, yes, you can. Actually, it's important to have genetic counseling, because, as we know.
Yeah. Okay.
I was just about to, sorry to interject.
Okay.
That is so important. I so say yes to that. My name Udirileng didn't come by just fluke. This is a story. It's a true story that apparently happened. My parents didn't know. Both my parents didn't know that I'm gonna come out like this. I was born, and my dad rushed to hospital with my gran, and they got into the ward and they see this child they didn't know. Apparently, my dad and the first question that my gran asked was, "Kabo Udirileng." So that's where my name comes from.
That's where your name comes from. Wow.
Yes. So I say to you, I am big on that. I am very big on that.
Yes.
Yes.
Genetic counseling.
Pre-conception genetic counseling. It's quite important. It's quite important. Because, you know, dealing with, like Udirile is saying, that the parents didn't know, and then you get surprised at birth that, my goodness, what's going on here, you know? Then there's blame between the parents, there's rejection of the child, the mother doesn't want to bond with the child. So it's got a lot of psychosocial impact on the child. And, you know, it puts a strain on the relationship as well. So yes, genetic counseling plays a very significant role. Actually, it's you know, it's very, very important. People, you know, like Udirile, if he at some point, I don't know whether he's got kids or not, if you don't have kids and you are planning a family, it's very important to do the preconception genetic counseling. And these services are available. I know in the public sector, in big hospitals like Charlotte Mateke and Bara, there are genetic counselors, people who study genetics, and they have counselors there who would, you know, then you are prepared mentally and otherwise, you know, about the chances of having a child who is seen to be different from other children, you know, because, and also remember, it's autosomal recessive. Not all the siblings will have albinism, you know, so you'll find that out of the 4 children, you are the only one who's got the condition, and that also can be, you know, it carries a lot of stigma, it carries a lot of marginalization, discrimination, and you know. So but when the family is prepared and they know that there's a chance of one of the kids having albinism, they deal with it better, and even the siblings, you know, deal with it and handle the other sibling better, you know. So education, and awareness.
So this is another thing that at primary care level, you know.
Yes, that's another thing that at primary
that can be done, you know,
can be recommended. Yes,
recommended.
You know, it has to be done by experts.
Yes, definitely. But at least the referral can
start.
Yes,
the referral. Yes, certainly, Doc. Certainly.
Yes. So, Doc, your closing remarks before I ask Dr. Maggie for her closing remarks. What is that we have not touched that you would like to share with our viewers relating to you know, albinism? This
condition. You know, I think we have basically touched everything. You know, importantly, this is a very common condition, and we've heard that it's associated with a whole lot of myths and cultural beliefs, you know. So it's important. I will emphasize the importance of education and knowledge about the condition, and, you know, in trying to destigmatize the condition. So early consultation to a dermatologist, to an ophthalmologist, already gives you you know, you are already a step ahead in dealing with the condition. You know, both the families and the society, we need to advocate as clinicians and as people living with the condition. We need to advocate for, you know, the human rights of these people not to be violated, and also their health care as well to be as important as any other human being, because, I mean, all that they need is a basic sunscreen. They shouldn't go to Baragwanath Hospital for a sunscreen. You can get that in all the, actually at clinic level. Why are we not getting it? You know, it's still an issue of debate. And I must say that I've been, you know, taking authorities to account for such services to be provided at basic care level. So really and truly, we need to be the advocates of our people, you know, and educate them.
Doc, thank you very much. I still have a question for you, Udireling. I know I had said that was your last thing. Think about it. You're gonna have the last word. The dating scene. How's the dating scene? If you want to, you know, you can answer. But if you don't feel like you don't want to answer, it's okay. You know. But I just want you, just on a lighter note, you know, how's the dating scene? But Dr. Maggie, Pela, I must respect you as an elder in this profession. So, you know, protocol demands that you should actually have the last word. But I've just had this one thing thinking, which Odirileng must say. So, as an elder in this profession, with a lot of wisdom. As Batwabantu, what should we be doing really to look after our brothers and sisters who just happen to have a lighter skin than us?
Okay, I always say that.
Now I'm here, like you are talking to Komahaeng, you know, township, unsophisticated people. You know, what message do you have for them?
Okay, first of all, I would like to say that every day, every month is Albinism month. The dedicated month, as per our health calendar, we must be able to celebrate the successes. I sit here and listen about policies and stuff, you see, which to me, it's something that is just not acceptable. So I would like us to see next year, as we celebrate the Albinism month, we must celebrate the successes of what has been done. So I will be tracking this policy, whatever has happened, the timelines, and next year, I promise to be part of the team that will be celebrating the successes. But as far as our townships and rural villages, and especially in Africa, because I believe in Pan-African, and the reason why I believe in that is because one of the highest challenges with albinism is in Tanzania.
Yes.
So I'm saying that the primary care providers and all care providers out there, let us integrate our services so that they incorporate services that we can offer for some of the conditions that are not similar to the usual, like, as you say, different skin color than us. If we do that, the message spread faster, and we can use digital health, mobile phones to run those campaigns, because it is not easy to go and talk at Marapiani about some of these things, but we can do it with a click of a button. And thank you for a brilliant talk, especially for the primary care providers.
Thank you. Ke a leboha kudu ka matla.
Ke a leboga.
Right. Udureleng, do you want to answer my question or no, let's leave it. I just wanted to check, Nje, but you don't have to answer. You must unmute yourself. Okay, Udureleng seems to be struggling to work that button to unmute himself.
Bear with me. Yes.
Yeah, okay, now, yeah, you're good. You don't have to answer my question, but if you want to, you can answer it. Okay.
I'm trying to understand. Can you just rephrase it, please?
Okay.
It for me.
No. Remember, we have just said here that because of lack of information, there's a lot of discrimination out there, against people who are living with albinism. You are a young man, all right? At some point, I'm not sure if Unyeti or you are still in the market, Yeah. So I'm just checking how na butata na to that discrimination, when you approach, potential suitors.
Well, let's put it this way. Each and every man on a lead challenges, and let's just say, for some of us, there's more advantages than disadvantage. So let's just leave it at that.
Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. Actually, tomorrow, tomorrow, I'm actually continuing with the discussion, but the focus is different now. The focus is on the workplace, issues around disability in the workplace, how employers must reasonably accommodate people with, who are living with albinism, issues around assistive devices that the law expects of employers to make available as part of reasonable accommodation, issues around retraining, reskilling, at a point where somebody has got a disability, how to make sure that they are trained with Braille, how to ensure that the workplace is accessible, the tools that you use, so that there are no impediments in terms of your career advancement. Because what we see is that quite a number of people who are living with albinism, they are left as frontline workers, all right, as in receptionists, switchboard, this, but those people can actually do so much more if only they were working within environments who understand their clinical condition, but also understand what the Employment Equity Act, Labor Relations Act demands of them. So tomorrow I'll have an occupational therapist, who is an expert in that space, who will take us through on those matters. I'll also have, an optometrist who will also talk about refractory issues, that affects people with, I dedicated this weekend, basically Saturday and Sunday, to just talking about issues relating to albinism. So, if you are not busy, it would be nice to have you, but if you are busy, it's okay. All right, I can't impose.
That's fine. Let's chat about this. You very like that. I did it. My weekend is actually meant to be a chilled one at home. So yes. I'll dedicate my weekend to you, because my boss lady as well just said, you know what, make sure that this man is happy, and I will make sure that you're happy. So you and I will chat about after this, and I will avail myself for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Bunol. Thank you very much. When I was looking at the surname Mushiana, is it a Sutu surname, or is it a Tsonga surname, or a Venda surname?
Well, thank you, Doctor, for inviting me. I really feel privileged to be able to be part of this and share a bit of my knowledge. Thank you so much. Well, coming back to the surname, it's Mushiana. It's a Venda surname. Na ke Motswana. Ke Motswana wa ko Thabanchu.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
I got married to the humble Venda people. So I decided to change my surname, which I know it's different, because most of the doctors don't change their surname, but I did.
Yes. No, but we live in South Africa, where a woman who gets married has got options. You can keep
your of course.
You can drop your surname,
double barrel,
surname, or you can have a double barrel. It's up to you.
Yes, so I chose. That's why I'm saying I chose to change mine.
Yes, which is so fine.
It's a Venda surname. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm trying to think now. So if I'm saying thank you to you, should I say it in Venda or should I say it Gaston?
It doesn't really matter. You can say it in Venda. Let's test you.
Rolebua. If you were a guy, I was gonna say Ndauyanduna, but now that I normally hear that when it's guys, they say Ndauyanduna or Onda,
yes, I would respond by saying
Yes, okay, yes. Lovely. Doc, thank you very much, man, for your time. I'm sure it's not the last time we have a chat, but you have done a very good job in terms of just enlightening us like I expected. And I'm sure we are more enlightened because of you giving selflessly your time and knowledge. So thank you very much. Odireleng?
Thank you, Doctor.
All right. Yes. Thank you, Dad.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll chat.